Macmillan Audio presents The Long Accomplishment, a memoir of hope and struggle in matrimony by Moody, read for you by the author. For LKN, HJM, TFNM, Alifu. January to September 2013. In order to have a second marriage you can believe in, you may have to fail at your first marriage. I failed spectacularly at mine. It's not my place, here at the outset, if ever, to evaluate for you the way that my wife behaved in my first marriage. Though because marriages are intricate, dynamic, complex relationships, you would not unreasonably infer that she played her part. This is in the nature of things. Failure is often as collaborative as success. Instead, my job here is to discuss briefly what role I played in that failure before going on to tell you about redemption in difficult times, redemption undeserved, redemption so unforeseeable as to appear to require a belief in grace. I'm writing down these first lines because they're the beginning of the story, though I am still not inclined to cherish the particulars of my conduct where my first marriage is concerned. I did not rise to the occasion of matrimonial language, the beautiful, powerful vows that go with the enactment of marriage. I, who care about language, did not prize the language, but rather ignored it. I remember reading an interview with John Cheever in my early years as a student, in which Cheever says, in the Paris Review, I believe, that there are certain lies that everyone understands to be lies, but that are still useful to civilization as moral ideas, compasses with which we might navigate the storms of our being. Among these, according to him, are the vows of marriage. I found this remark, made by a married person himself, painful to contemplate, but also somehow compellingly frank. My own parents, it seemed to me when younger, should not perhaps have been married, and they were wise to get out of the business of marriage while they were still in their 30s, waiting to remarry until they were certain they had settled down some. Theirs was not a marriage that indisputably reassured about the sturdiness of the institution. And that was what I knew from my earliest childhood, the sadness, anger, grief, and isolation of a marriage that had endured beyond what was practicable. I love both my parents, and I have often marveled in my adulthood at what a good job they did in remarriage. But I saw them express affection toward each other while married infrequently enough for it to be both surprising and hard to remember in any detail. Though one can presume on the basis of their 3 children, my brother, my sister, and myself, that some kind of love took place at some point in the late 50s and early 60s. I knew little about it. This was one factor in the tremendous reluctance I had about marrying in my 20s and 30s, the ache of the history of my own parents and their separation. My parents divorced after 13 years. Meanwhile, my mother's mother, whose acute alcoholism was the end of her in her 60s after multiple hospitalizations, was effectively bedridden.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?